meeting is being recorded.
Hello,
Okay.
everybody. I'm Cindy Jovanovski. I'm the president of the Metro Fibromyalgia and support group, CFS support group. Sorry, and you guys all know me by now. And I like to introduce Cliff Weisberg, who's spoken to our group in the past in 2021. So it's been 3 years now, and he's an excellent speaker, very knowledgeable, and full of the wisdom in regards to Social Security disability. So welcome back, Cliff, and thank you for joining us. And I'll take it away
Thank you
whenever
for
you're
the
ready. And
invitation. I
Cheryl, and you can
appreciate it.
remind everybody
And
about
I'm not
it.
forgotten. You remembered me. That's
Right?
good.
And
Well, I'm
Cheryl,
here really to try to answer any questions you might have. Uh, Obviously, no two cases are exactly the same, but already we've covered one item that I'm often asked: what happens when I reach full retirement age? If you're receiving Social Security disability and you finally reach your full retirement age, depending upon the year you were born, your benefit automatically converts to retirement from disability. And the only change, the benefit amount is exactly the same. There's no change there. The
Mhm.
one benefit is you're now able to work as much as you want and not having it affect your ongoing benefit from Social Security. So that's the big plus. Um, Also, if any member is on benefits that are very low, and that happens sometimes where if their primary insurance amount, that's what we call your monthly Social Security benefit, your primary insurance amount is below 943 $943 a month, and things are tough, you could be eligible for an additional benefit under the SSI program. Now, everybody confuses SSI and SSD. SSD is an insurance program. This is what you pay for, and you pay it out of while you were working during your working life. That is what you were was held from your pay, 7.65% of every paycheck, which was met by your employer. So over 14% of your gross pay was going into both Medicare, the Medicare Trust Fund, and the Social Security Trust Fund. And that's what finances your retirement benefit, your disability benefit, and if you should prematurely die before reaching retirement, your survivorship benefit. That's what you pay for it. It's insurance, basically. That's the premium you pay. SSI, on the other hand, is a welfare benefit. It is a federal welfare benefit. It was a program that was started in 1974 under the Nixon administration. And why this happened, there were a large segments of the population that were who haven't paid into the system, had a very dicey work record, couldn't qualify for Social Security disability, basically on welfare and dependent upon whatever state program was available. And the federal government was sending money to the states to supplement whatever program was in place for these folks who did not qualify for Social Security. What was happening, you had 50 states and you had 50 different standards, so that if you were in Ohio, the benefit was much less than the benefit in Illinois, and the benefit in Illinois was more than the benefit in. So it was a hodgepodge across the country. Well, this was unfair because a lot of the states were getting this money and they weren't using it for the stated purpose. So Congress, in its infinite wisdom, decided to pass a supplemental security income program. As I said, under the Nixon administration, it was started in 1974. And what they did is they standardized the whole program for the states. So what you were eligible for in Michigan was the same as you would be eligible in California, so on and so forth. Well, they didn't know where to put this program because it has nothing whatsoever to do with Social Security. Nothing. Uh, they didn't know whether to create another department, another, call it whatever you want, a federal welfare department. So they decided, Social Security disability, which was already in place, it was already structured. They had it all figured out over the many years that Social Security was in existence. They said, why don't we just put it under the authority of the Social Security Administration and adopt the same standards and the same rules and regulations for the medical requirements for SSI. So the medical requirements are exactly the same as the medical requirements are for those who qualify for Social Security disability based on their work record. The difference is in the non-medical requirements, so that with SSI, you had to meet a certain minimum of assets, basically, and it hasn't changed since 1974. If you're single, and they did exclude certain things, they excluded a car, they excluded a home if you're living in the home, and a few other things, prepaid burial benefit, a small life insurance, life benefit, and then $2,000 if you're single, and if you were married, it was $3,000. So if you exceeded that, you wouldn't be eligible for SSI, and if you didn't pay into the system for SSD, you were SOL, and we all know what SOL means. So yeah, that's how it all got started, and how SSI was placed under the jurisdiction of the Social Security Administration. And it's been that way ever since. Very little changes came about. One major one was in 1986. Here's what was happening. So if you're on SSI and receiving it, this was primarily younger folks, and your father retired or your mother either retired, died, or became disabled, you as a child could be eligible as a disabled adult child on your parents' Social Security account, which was very nice because that resulted in a much higher benefit than what you were getting under SSI. But what that did, it was knocking people off of Medicaid, the medical part of this, and it was very unfair. Yeah, they got more money, but they had to wait 2 years in order to be eligible to go on Medicare. So what they did is, it's called the Pickle Amendment. Just the way it sounds. It was named after a Congressman Pickle, who said, look, if you are on Medicaid and your benefits change because your parent either dies, retires on Social Security, or becomes disabled on Social Security, and you become eligible for disabled adult child benefits, your Medicaid continues. And that was a very, very important piece of legislation, and it still applies today. Now, they made some minor, I'm not going to go into the changes, but if you run into anybody who all of a sudden you find out that they're receiving benefits based on their parents' account and they've been denied Medicaid because of the increase in benefit, you should definitely bring that to their attention. And I bet you're going to remember it just by virtue of what it's called, the Pickle Amendment. And that's exactly
Pickle Amendment. Yeah.
talking about it now. So that's another area that a lot of folks don't understand. That's disabled adult child. Okay. There's a couple things to talk about there. The disabled adult child program can be on either parent's account, And if you can establish that the child's disability arose prior to age 22, they can become eligible as an adult on their parent's Social Security account. Now, the parent, again, either has to be receiving retirement or has died or is disabled, the parent himself or herself. Uh, and it's a program that's often overlooked by a lot of folks, and it's something to certainly keep in mind. If you know anyone currently receiving SSI and relatively, younger, and parents are still alive, or if the parent is disabled, most likely the parent is going to be retiring on Social Security. Sometimes it's missed. Oftentimes it's missed. And because a lot of folks are now applying online, it's not unusual for a child who's receiving SSI, totally unaware that they are eligible for a much higher benefit, never applies. And sometimes they can find out years later, why didn't I apply? And they don't go all the way back. It only goes back 1 year back from the date you actually apply as a disabled adult child. So I've seen several people lose a lot of money because of that. That's some of the non-medical stuff that I wanted to mention. Now, if you're on Social Security, have you undergone any what they call continuing disability review? We call them CDRs. Okay. The younger you are, the more likely you are going to be undergoing a CDR. And it's so important. Make sure that the members of your organization absolutely continues to treat with their rheumatologist, particularly with their rheumatologist, because I'll tell you, it's open season. And they got funding again. They just got funding, and they're going to start next year. They're going to start doing them again. You're going to see a big increase in CDRs. Now, if you're already over 55, the chance of them reviewing you really is slim.
Yeah, they never reviewed me.
But they still can do so. I mean, it's still possible. You see, when you're approved for disability, they have to put a diary date. There's three types. The most common one is a review in 3 years. Sometimes if a case goes to hearing, the judge can order, well, I'm going to award your benefits, but I'm going to want you reviewed in 18 months. They can do that. Now, if they have the funds to do that continuing disability review, they will review the case in 18 months to see if the individual is still disabled. But a lot of folks, once they're on Social Security, they have a false sense of security, meaning that, well, now that I'm on, I don't have to worry. I'm going to get my benefits for the rest of my life. Not so. You are always subject to a review. And as I said, there's three possibilities. 3 years, which is the most common. For improvement that may occur, they'll put it on a 5-year review. And if the impairment is not expected to improve or result in death, it's on a 7-year review. My experience has been once you reach advanced age, and advanced age for them is 55 and older. That's what they call it, advanced age. I love when I speak to a large group, especially of younger individuals, because Social Security has a methodology that they've adopted using age categories to assist in deciding whether a claim is going to be allowed or denied. And so they have the younger individual, anybody under the age of 45, and then they have the closely approaching advanced age, and that's 50, and then advanced age, which is 55. There's also a fourth category called retirement age, and that's anybody who's reached age 60 or older. And as you go up that chain, the burden of proof becomes less. The burden of proof becomes less. Okay, I've been speaking now for a while here, for a half hour already. Look at that. Questions? Any questions you folks have? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I wanted to verify that you said the requirements, there's medical requirements, of course, for SSD, but also for SSI? Or
Yes,
did I
same
mishear that?
No,
Okay.
exactly the same medical requirements. It's the non-medical requirements that separate the two.
Oh, okay.
You have to have paid into the system long enough to be insured. Remember, I called it insurance.
Okay, right.
And then the other is a welfare benefit. You have to be poor enough to be eligible to collect SSI.
Gotcha. Okay.
Sometimes
And
you're eligible for both. You could be eligible for both. If you have a very low benefit based on your work history, that's happened. And if you're poor enough, you can also get an additional supplement under the SSI program to bring you up. I think it's they're going to go to, let's see, in 2025, it'll be $967 a month. Right now it's $943 a month.
Okay,
and, so
that's low.
Now that doesn't mean you get double pay. No. What they'll do is they'll pay whatever you are eligible under Title II, what we call SSDI, and then they'll make up the difference to bring it up to $943 plus $20. That's how they do it. There's $20. Oh, it's just stupid. It's the same standard they've had since 1974. Totally ridiculous. Just ridiculous.
Yeah. I had another question, real quick. When I got approved for disability, I filed for it in 2010, and then I got approved in 2012.
Did they give you a hard time?
Well, I had to go through two, rejections, and I was told to expect that, and then the third time was, I guess you'd call it a Zoom call. I mean, it was, the judge was up in Illinois, and I happened to live in Florida at the time, and it was winter. It was like January for this hearing, and I was sitting there thinking, "Oh, I hope this doesn't work against me." But I was 56 at the time of that hearing, and anyway, I had a very, very good lawyer. He was complimented by the judge for his briefs, and I'm like, "Oh, hallelujah!" That's that.
Where was your hearing? Was it in Michigan?
No, the judge was in Chicago, and I had to be at an office with the ability for a teleconference in Florida. Yeah. So then I got approved. But I remember at the time, my lawyer, who was also very experienced, he said that they do not, at the time, they were not granting disability with the diagnosis of fibromyalgia alone, that there had to be other things. And I had many other things, but that was one of the reasons I did get it. I was very, very fortunate. So,
let me give you a little bit of history. You were very fortunate. You had a good lawyer. There were a lot of lawyers doing this stuff, not all so wonderful. And they would summarily not even take a fibromyalgia case. They just wouldn't take it. Why? Because the way fibromyalgia was being abused, the diagnosis was that a doctor who couldn't identify the cause of a patient's pain didn't know what else to call it, and just threw it into the pot as fibromyalgia. And that continued for a number of years. And it was almost impossible to get somebody approved based on fibromyalgia alone.
Mm-hmm.
Then I guess in I think it was 19, well, there was 1990, the American College of Rheumatology set forth the criteria for the diagnosis of fibromyalgia, and it was further defined in an update of 2010, the diagnostic criteria for fibromyalgia. It's still kind of treated as a stepchild by a lot of judges. They still don't buy into it. They don't accept it. And if you have young folks, I'll tell you, they're going in with two strikes against them. If the sole basis is fibromyalgia for their claim. The only thing I can say about that is it's essential that they are under the ongoing care of a rheumatologist. That is essential. And how thorough the rheumatologist's progress notes are can make or break a case, because they will ask for all the records from the doctor, every single page, every single test result. And I'll tell you, a lot of doctors do not keep detailed progress notes. They'll scribble something down, and I'll tell you, that is a real problem, a true problem. Now, for folks who are newly diagnosed with fibromyalgia now, there's a whole outline that you can follow on putting your claim in the best light that you can with Social Security. Simple things like keeping a diary of your symptoms on a day-to-day basis, educating your rheumatologist. A lot of rheumatologists have no clue whether or not they have an understanding of what Social Security is looking for. Now, if you have young folks like that, and Cindy, this is something I really want you to note.
Right.
There's a Social Security ruling on fibromyalgia. Now, it's write this down. It is Social Security ruling 12-2P, as in Paul, 12-2P. If you go online and you Google SSR 12-2, SSA 12-2P, SSA SSR 12-2P, you will see the ruling that is now in place that gives guidance, not necessarily a guarantee, but gives guidance on how they will assess a claim based on fibromyalgia. It was a lifesaver, because before this, it was almost impossible. I would tell clients, don't even mention it. Don't even mention the diagnosis. They're not going to buy it. Even now, you still have doctors like that. Even right now, it's embarrassing. It's just the way it is. And the most important thing a patient can do is educate his doctor or her doctor. The doctors, they think I find my client, my patient is disabled, blah, 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 and they sign. It's not enough. There's criteria that has to be established. And as thorough as a lot of doctors are, there are those who are not. And if you have one of those, you're going to have a very difficult time satisfying Social Security that you're disabled. It ain't going to happen, pretty much.
Right. Well, I had a musculoskeletal injuries that and surgeries and things, and so it was a combination of doctors, and not just rheumatologists, but orthopedic surgeons and various other physicians that contributed to my case. That the combination of things is what what helped, I think, because it was just that, and that wasn't the thing I was hinging everything on anyway. So
Gotcha.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
No, I understand.
Unfortunately, but fortunately.
Yeah. Any other questions I can answer for you folks?
Before I let you take any more questions, Cliff, should we all meet in Zoom number 2? Because we're gonna be kicked off here anytime now. So
Oh.
so that's the timer popped up on my screen. So I just want to
Oh,